For example, if your body drops down to a frequency of around about 42 megahertz, cancer starts to grow. Cold and flu gets activated in the body when the body's frequency is around about 52 hertz. Now, you won't be able to hear that through your ear, but we'll be able to detect it in your voice. Things like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease impact the quality of the voice 10 to 15 years before it manifests physically in the body. Sleep deprivation. We can have a look at your sleep cycle and we can predict when you're going to have good sleep or poor sleep. And those vocal frequencies that relate to sleep will show up about 3 to 6 weeks before you experience sleep deprivation.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Soulmates and Suitcases. My name is Lisa Brierley and my amazing husband and co-host beside me is Scott Brierley. If you are new to Soulmates and Suitcases, our podcast is a space where we have open and honest conversations about various things: healing, resilience, relationships, mental health, and those stories, of course, that shape us. And you can find us on many platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and we are new to truefans.fm. And we are excited to have our guest today. So welcome to Daniel Tolson. Welcome, Daniel.
Daniel, welcome.
Thank you. I've just unpacked my suitcase after 5 weeks traveling and lots of healing, so that'll be a wonderful topic.
Awesome. I love that. It fits perfect for Soulmates and Suitcases, unpacking your suitcase. So I'll tell you a little bit about Daniel and then we'll get started. So today's guest, Daniel Tolson, is the founder of Alignment Assessments and is known as the Voice Whisperer. And so Daniel's path has been shaped kind of more about overcoming those learning challenges, health struggles, and being told more than once that he wouldn't be able to do it. And I did send Daniel, he did a voice analysis on me, so I think we'll be diving into that, hopefully, Daniel.
We can indeed.
That's very exciting. So looking at things about sound, the nervous system, and what this is all informed through bioinformatics. Hopefully I got that word right.
That's a big word, that one.
Acoustic technology. Oh, so many things to dive into and explain. So welcome, Daniel. Maybe you can start by telling us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Well, I was one of those lucky children who was diagnosed with a learning disability at a young age, and the teachers tried to convince me that I wouldn't be able to achieve the things that I wanted to in life. And that's kind of the start of the story. But I was resilient. I didn't believe what they told me. And then later on, I found out that it wasn't a learning disability. I found out that it was a teaching disability. So once I figured that out, I had to unwind all those bullshit stories that I used to tell myself. And I was able to, what I'd like to think is to rewire how I think and feel.
Yeah.
So that started happening at age 10. I also had a lot of physical complications, and I had allergies. I had random bleeding noses. I had hearing impairments, meaning that I was tone deaf. I had visual impairments and I couldn't see correctly. Although I had 20/20 vision, the information that was coming in through my senses was getting mixed up inside of my mind. So the world for me was quite confusing, and they were going to fix me. They sent me to remedial therapy for 5 years. I don't think it worked.
There you go.
They were the early days.
And so I think a lot of people actually will connect with all these things that you just talked about. So the assessments, the diagnosis, the feedback from people, teachers, or anyone saying you can't, or you're not going to be able to, and then going, oh, there is something else, or there's some way, some place where you can come to where you can go, I can do this, and I am going to do this.
And rewiring the brain is a topic I like.
Neuroplasticity.
Yeah. There's many different ways that our brain works, and especially when it comes to learning styles, all of us are wired differently. And the school system is set up to deal with people who are linear in learning style. You got to learn A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. But the world actually rewards lateral thinkers, people who can start at 7 and still end up at 6. And I had learned that through many doctors around the world, that my style of thinking wasn't a disability, it was actually an advantage. And there was one doctor by the name of Dr. Edward de Bono, and he wrote books on lateral thinking. He wrote about 70 different books. And once I studied his material, I thought to myself, there's nothing wrong with me. I just have a lateral thinking mind. And when I go back to school, I thought to myself, they had a teaching disability. They could teach 28 people one way, but the 29th person who didn't fit the box, they couldn't handle. So the easiest thing is to label them learning disabled. Yeah. And then you send them to a special room, and that special room was called Space Lab. And it was for kids who are off the planet.
We called it special ed.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're talking to a teacher here, so I totally understand where you're coming from. And I'd like to say, Daniel, if you were in my classroom, you would have excelled. However, there is always that top-down pressure that the teacher has to perform and give the output and meet these curricular needs and areas, and you know, the provincial assessments or whatever they were. But I know for myself, I saw the kids like you. I'd like to say, I kind of just picked this word up the other day, the underdogs, the kids who, you know, they're excelling in their special skills, whatever that is, and not conforming to this box. And I do hope and pray for a change in the school system, whatever that looks like. Maybe it's no longer, I don't know, but it's,
well, you're right. It's systemic. It's a system problem, and it's not that my teachers didn't want to help me. They were limited. It was like they wore a set of handcuffs, and they have to play within their rules. But it is a systemic problem, and I had learned that going through grammar school as well. There were certain things that they had to focus on and that they were rewarded for. But for people like myself who fell outside of that box, it was really a too hard basket. It was really tough for the teachers. But hopefully we do see a change in the future. And I think there's a lot of teachers out there already who see these kids with special needs, and they do their very best to help them along.
Oh, yes.
But we label everybody with this special needs, and it's like, there it is, labeling them again. And it's like, why do we need to label it? Because it's like, I look at myself growing up, and at 11 or 12, I would have been better off if they had taken me and let me go to work with my dad every day. And I would have fit in, mind you, that's where I picked up my addiction, was with all the guys at work. But that's where I was better off. He sat me in a school and all I did was get in trouble because I didn't fit. And even as an adult, I go to 12-step programs and I can't even comprehend how most of the people think in the rooms, which puts me on the outside. And it's only up until recently, I'm supposed to be on the outside. That's where I need to be. I've been fighting that my whole life, and now that I've went, it's like this whole new feeling's come about me.
One thing I see in business is we have people, when it comes to systemic thinking, is they're below the line. And below the line's not better and above the line's not worse. It's just where we sit. And just below the line of systemic thinking is what we call a maverick style of personality. And we think of Maverick, we think of Tom Cruise in Top Gun. He's a great pilot. He follows the rules that he thinks are important, and then he's willing to even bend or break the rule to get a better result. And the system doesn't like that.
No.
But everybody else who he saves along the way loves it. And so we call this a maverick style of thinking. And there's people out there like yourself and myself who intentionally break the rules. And a lot of the times we get away with it because we get the result that nobody else can.
Yeah.
And it's a style of thinking that we pick up in critical thinking.
I love that. I've never heard of that.
Well,
Explained that way.
somewhere down the line, I was told, and I don't know if there's much truth, but I believe there is, the school system was created to create workers.
Workers.
And that's all it was created for. At least that's my understanding of it. And I'm not sure where you're from, but it sounds like your upbringing and my upbringing in the school system was the same.
It's quite similar.
So where did you go to school growing up? I grew up in Canada.
I grew up in the western suburbs of Sydney, and I went to a Catholic school.
Oh,
So there was doctrine,
yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
and there was a diocese, and there was a set of rules, and you got to get it. You got to get the guilt in to the kids at a very young age, so you can control them for life. So I think there's many different things in the school system, especially when religion comes into play.
yeah.
So I was in the western suburbs, and they rewarded grades. So if you were very good at passing tests, you got rewarded. But they didn't identify and they didn't recognize social skills. Now, 40 years later, my boy, he goes to school here in Taiwan, and he goes to a Montessori school,
Yeah.
and they teach and they reward social skills. So he's a talker, but he's also a great listener. He's very empathetic. He's also very compassionate, and he gets rewarded for listening to others. If I was evaluated on those soft skills 40 years ago, I probably would have been the top one student in the class.
Yeah, exactly. I think of that a lot and how the system was created. And so you now, Daniel, looking back, because I'm assuming that's now you have that opportunity to look back and evaluate what you learned from your schooling system, from the schooling that you had. And so now you find yourself in this time of life. What are you doing now that will sort of support yourself and other people in learning more about themselves?
The problem for me really never disappeared, and the systemic problem remained. When I was around about 28, I moved to the Middle East and I started to work with Emirates Airline. And in Emirates Airline, we would have to get our license to operate aircrafts. So you'd do intensive training, you'd go through a licensing test, and you had to pass the test to get your operating license for these multiple different aircrafts. And I could do the study, I could pass all the demonstrations, but when it came to the computer-based test, I would consistently fail. So the problem that existed in my mindset kept coming back even at age 28, 29, 30 and 31. And what I realized was that I'm very much auditory external, meaning if you ask me a question, I can articulate the answer. But somewhere between my brain, my eyes and my fingertips, I couldn't pass these computer-based assessments, although I knew the answer. And so I'd fail these exams and then I'd get called into the office and my manager would ask me to explain myself. And I said, look, I don't want to act like a victim. I don't want to be below the line and tell you why this is happening. But I've had a learning disability. And whenever I sit in front of these computers, something happens in my brain and I can't get the answer out. But if you would just sit here and ask me the question, I could verbalize the answer and I would know more than the instructor. And they'd say, well, Daniel, we're very sorry. It's not how it works around here. So that systemic problem still remains for me. But what I've realized is that when it comes to getting the answer out, I'm auditory external. So I've got to be able to position myself in a way that I can articulate the answer in a conversation and not put myself into a position where I have to do a multiple choice questionnaire.
Okay.
So I understand that this problem is going to remain. It's not a problem for me. It's a problem for others. But I have to make sure I'm in an environment where I can get around that. So even today at age 46, I'm very mindful of the education that I take on and the way that I'm tested in it. But in the business world, nobody asks you to sit down and do a real test. The test in business is, can you get the result? And as long as you can get the result, you get the project or the job. So that's how I like to position myself today.
Exactly. And so with that, how do you define success?
Well, defining success for me is doing what I love.
Yeah.
And when I went through my learning disabilities at a young age, I knew that I wanted to help people. And my mum asked me one day, she said, Daniel, why do you give half of your pocket money away to the Salvation Army? And I said, how did you know? She said, well, I just saw you earn $2 at the news agency and you gave $1 away to the Salvation Army. And I said, well, Mum, I just like to help people. So when I was younger, I had an image in my mind that I was like a doctor. I didn't wear a schmock. I didn't wear a white coat. I didn't have a clipboard. But I could see myself helping people. No needles, no pills. But I was doing something through the mind. And so when I got a little bit older, I learned that the word doctor in Latin means to teach. Now, you don't have to become a formal doctor to help people heal. There's many different ways, and we've done it many different ways for thousands of years. So I realised for me that I was healing people. And the way that I was doing it was through the mind. And in Greek, they say dia nous. So for me, that vision at a young age was helping people heal through their mind. And so whenever I was on that path, I felt really congruent. And so today I do that as my full-time vocation. And for me, that's what I define as success, doing what I love.
Nice.
And what is, like, how many people out there are like you doing this, or how popular is this, or when did this all begin?
In terms of people like myself, I guess it's like everybody else. There's only one of us on the planet. And so my approach combines the best of what I've been able to learn from other doctors and other leaders in my field. So for me, I've now had 25,000 people through my programs over the past 14 years. I have personally profiled 10,000 leaders using scientific assessments, and my company Alignment Assessment has analysed the voice of more than 30,000 people around the world and delivered 1.4 million self-healing sessions to be able to rewire the mind. So in terms of
what
healing,
is it about the voice? What is it about the voice?
Well, the voice doesn't lie, and the voice reveals what the body conceals. Our voice box reveals to us information from our nervous system. And the reason why the voice box reveals information about the nervous system is to make a speech sound is the most complex process for the human body. The most complex. To make a speech sound, you need to engage 100 different muscles in the body to make a speech sound. You've got 43 muscles in your face. You have 8 muscles in the side of your tongue. And voice activates different regions of the brain. It activates the cranial nerves and the vagus nerve. And everything that's connected to the vagus nerve has its own frequency. So when we create a speech sound, if there's any illness or disease in the body, it changes the frequency of the voice. And if you think about it, if Scott's not feeling well, you'll hear it in his voice. If your energy is low, you'll hear it in your voice. And what we've been able to do is we've been able to use system processing tools to analyze the frequencies in the voice. So for men, the vocal frequency of our voice starts at about 80,000 hertz and then goes up from 80 hertz and up. For women, it's about 150 hertz and up. And then each of our organs has a different frequency. Each of our emotions have a different frequency. So an emotion like guilt or shame, think about how you feel when you're experiencing that emotion. It's a very low vibration. It's around about 20 to 30 hertz. But then when you start to feel courage, your emotional tone scale increases. Courage has a frequency of around about 250 hertz. And then above that is love. Love is a very high frequency, and love can heal your body, but it can also heal other people. The emotional frequency of love is around about 500 hertz. And when we're experiencing that in the body, we can pick it up in the voice. People like Jesus Christ, Muhammad, the Buddha, they had what was called Christ consciousness, and their frequency was very high. The frequency of Christ consciousness is around about 700 hertz. And all of this can be detected using signal processing through the voice.
And this is a natural output of the voice, not like thinking, if someone said to me, oh, I want to record your voice and see what the output is. And I said, I'm having a great day. But it's more of what you're naturally doing. Like that's what you're analyzing.
So the voice, when we measure it, there's a number of things that we're looking for. We're listening for tone, tempo, pitch, shimmer, shine. We can hear all of these things. But what you can't hear are the different frequencies that exist inside of the body. For example, if your body drops down to a frequency of around about 42 megahertz, cancer starts to grow. Cold and flu gets activated in the body when the body's frequency is around about 52 hertz. Now, you won't be able to hear that through your ear, but we'll be able to detect it in your voice. Things like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease impact the quality of the voice 10 to 15 years before it manifests physically in the body. Sleep deprivation. We can have a look at your sleep cycle and we can predict when you're going to have good sleep or poor sleep. And those vocal frequencies that relate to sleep will show up about 3 to 6 weeks before you experience sleep deprivation. So voice is as rich in information as a genetic test. Voice has around about 20 million bits of information in it in a 60-second voice analysis. There's so much information, and it's non-invasive.
Yeah, it is. It was just a simple recording.
Here's a quick pause in the conversation to invite you to join our Facebook community, Soulmates and Suitcases podcast. Tell your story, amplify your voice, where we share upcoming guests, new episodes, and conversations from the podcast. And you can catch all episodes on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Be sure to follow and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now back to the show.
And to get the in the box sort of information, do you need to do it several times, or literally the test is the one-shot deal?
Just one time.
Why is that?
Well, voice is very rich in information. And when we do a vocal health screening, we can detect up to 14,000 health genetic issues in a 90-second voice analysis. Frequency of the body has been studied for thousands of years. So you're living in Thailand, you're probably aware of the chakra systems in the body.
Yeah.
The chakras all have their own frequency, starting at the root chakra, which is a healthy root chakra should resonate at a frequency of 396 hertz. The crown chakra has a healthy frequency of 963 hertz. And all of this can be measured through the voice. And those frequencies have been studied for thousands of years. It's like my sound healing bowl here.
Yeah.
This is tuned to the musical note of A. And it also has a frequency of 432 hertz. Now, 432 hertz brings the autonomic nervous system back into alignment. It reduces stress, anxiety, and balances out mood. So what we know is that with voice, if there's a missing musical note in the person's voice, then we can reintroduce it back into their mind through musical medicine. So all we need is a one-time voice analysis. If we go back to things like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease, since 2019, there's been millions of case studies on Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. And these were performed in accordance with Amazon Web Services. People might not know who Amazon Web Services are.
No.
Amazon Web Service is related to Amazon, the dropshipping company, and they host most of the world's websites. And whenever you pick up your phone and send a voice note via WhatsApp, it goes through Amazon's web service. Whenever you are on your iPhone and you say, "Hey Siri," this will go through Apple and Amazon's web services. And through millions of case studies, they can now detect Alzheimer's in the voice in a 4-second health clip. There's also telemedicine. Telemedicine, this is probably one of the biggest breakthroughs. In India, we have these really big populations. There could be 6 million people in a small city, and there might only be a handful of heart surgeons. Now, critical heart failure can be detected in the voice 6 to 21 days before it manifests in the body. So what happens now in India is you call through to your healthcare provider. Whilst you're speaking to them, they're analysing your voice. And if you're at risk for critical heart failure, you'll be triaged on the telephone call and be given a green light straight to the hospital.
Wow.
But if you're not showing signs of critical heart failure, they'll say, "Lisa Scott, don't come to the hospital today. There's no danger. Stay at home."
Wow.
So they're doing that. Samsung, I have a Samsung phone and I have Samsung devices. Samsung is a Korean-based company, and they've invested about $10 billion into this vocal biomarker technology. So over the coming years, and they just did a launch in Vegas about 3 months ago, all Samsung devices in the future will be telemedicine devices.
So that it'll
And they
just
call
tell
it-
you automatically.
It's called ambient listening. So whilst your mobile phone is sitting there, it'll be listening to the frequencies in your voice. Not what you say, but the frequencies. And if you're at risk of anxiety, stress, depression, if there's mental health issues, if you're at high risk for suicidality or self-harm, you will receive an alert.
And then what?
And then you get priority healthcare.
And then what?
Well, think of a platform like Zoom. Zoom already has the vocal biomarker technology built into it. So as we're speaking here, Zoom has the ability to analyze the vocal frequencies in our voice. And there's companies in America that are supported by different hospitals, and they do all of their appointments via Zoom. And as you're speaking with your doctor, it has ambient listening, and it will have a look at your hormonal balance. It'll have a look at your vitamin levels. It'll measure the frequency in your critical organs. So what it's really doing is it's giving us insights into preventative health.
Yeah.
And that's the key. A lot of Western medicine is reactive. They
Yeah.
look at cause and effect, where what we're doing is we're looking at the root cause. And so if we can identify the root cause at a frequency level, we know that we can reintroduce the frequency to the body, and that part of the body can start to heal. Yes, it does cost money. Yes, there's billions of dollars invested into it. What it gives the people is an opportunity to start healing today.
Yeah.
The only thing I see with with that concept is the fact that there'll be so much resistance in it. That's garbage. It won't work.
Oh, any change like that?
I went and seen this Dr. Amen. He's a psychiatrist, and he bashes all other psychiatrists because maybe bashing's the wrong words, but he goes, we're the only profession that diagnoses and assesses something that we don't examine, and then we dole out pills. Yep. So he actually examines the brain before he diagnoses you and gives you whatever you need.
Doctors should follow a creed, and the doctor's creed is primum non nocere. And what primum non nocere means is never knowingly do harm.
Yeah.
And a doctor should do three things. They should do an examination, a diagnosis, and then offer a prescription. But today what we're seeing in therapy around the world is people are getting a prescription before they're having an effective diagnostic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a diagnostic and a detective tool. We don't want to label people. We want to have a look at their frequency health, because frequency health impacts four things in the body. It impacts your physical health, your emotional health, your mental health, but also your spiritual health. And I think it'd be fair to say is that a lot of people have a lot of emotional baggage.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And they carry this emotional baggage around, and it impacts their own levels of compassion. They're hurting, and they project this on other people. Emotional pain is stored in the amygdala, which is a part of the brain. And emotional memory starts to get imprinted into the body from the final trimester in the mother's womb.
Ooh.
But sound, the ability for the embryo to hear, it can hear after the 9th week. So anything that's an auditory cue in the embryo's environment will be imprinted upon the embryo. So what does that mean? It means whatever the mother experiences whilst the baby's in utero, it's directly imprinted into the embryo. If mother is in a domestic violence relationship, all of that emotional pain is also felt by the embryo. So we start to record all of this information as a frequency, and it's pre-linguistic. You know if somebody's angry at you. It's a feeling. Doesn't matter what they say, it's a feeling. And those emotions are contagious. So with this technology, we can start to have a look at the root cause of people's emotional imbalances. And each emotion impacts a different organ and a different system in the body.
Wow.
So if we think about traditional Chinese medicine, the emotion of anger impacts the liver. Western medicine will try to fix the fatty liver, but they won't look at the anger. That's the root cause. Grief and sadness is held in the lungs. People who have a lot of grief and a lot of emotional baggage end up having lung-related problems. So what we're attempting to do is we're having a look at the root cause. What's the original root cause that's causing this physiological problem today?
So with the voice, and you're doing the analysis, and you figure this out, what direction do you, like you go? Do you send them to somebody else, or do you work on them by, like, do you know what I mean? Like for me, when you
What's the
mentioned
next
lung, I lived a horrific life and my lungs are tired. And I've had prostate cancer, I got diabetes. And I know it's all from what I subjected myself to. I know that, like there's
And the
no
environment you're
illusion.
in.
The environment I grew up in and all that. And as you were talking about in the womb, I'm the youngest of 5 in a domestic violence house. It was alcoholism. There was violence from all the kids. So obviously, and I was the one that was the most out of control. Like you could not tell me what to do by the time I was 11. So what you just said makes complete sense. And it's why I love these podcasts, because more gets revealed all the time. And it's like shedding the skin that it's like, I'm okay. Where before it was like, oh my God, I'm defective. I went to special ed, I went to special school, but I wasn't.
Well, that could take us in a different direction. And this type of technology sounds space age. Some people go, oh, this is a load of bullshit, Daniel. This is nuts. Every time something new comes to market, that's the response of everybody.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's like motor vehicles. That's never going to work. An aircraft. That's never going to work. But then we become accustomed to it. So in your situation, Scott, with my technology, we're not just looking at our physical health. We're also looking at our personality.
Yeah.
And when we look at personality, we can detect people's Enneagram personality style. Have you heard of the Enneagram before?
No, I don't think so.
It's a 9-part personality profiling technology. And in America, around about 160,000 people every month have their Enneagram personality detected. Incredible. So we do it through voice. They do it through a paper-based assessment.
Okay.
Now, the Enneagram has been around for more than 100 years. And based on our early childhood experiences plus emotions, we develop different personality types. So when I'm profiling somebody, I'm having a look at their personality type because that has come about by early childhood experiences. And for people, that's very therapeutic. They go, I get that. No wonder my emotion is anger. No wonder my emotion is shame. No wonder my emotion is fear. Because those emotions influence our personality type. For example, one of my clients, he grew up with an alcoholic father. He was abusive and his mother was very submissive. So what he became was a mediator. He would get right in between mum and dad. Dad was going to hit mum, but he's like, no, you hit me instead. So over the years, he's become a mediator. He's become a peacemaker. And when he did his vocal health screening, he said, this makes sense of why my personality is the way it is.
Yeah.
So we can have a look at personality. We can also have a look at stress type. And everybody believes that they're stressed. The latest research coming out of the Journal of American Medical Association shows that around about 70% of people who visit their doctor go for stress, anxiety, and depression.
Wow.
But 97% of people don't get help. So when we look at stress, we're looking at 3 types. We're looking if it's logical stress. There's people who are very good with people. They don't get stressed over people, but they get stressed about their job. They get stressed about their career. And normally people with logical health stress, they have an illness right now in the moment. So we can detect this. We can also see people who have sentimental stress. And this is interesting because the people who have sentimental stress have a stress about everything with a heartbeat. They get stressed over their pets. They get stressed over people. They take on other people's problems as if their own. And people who have sentimental stress are still suffering from events 10 or 20 years ago in the past. And then we have compound stress. And compound stress is where people are constantly stressed because of an environment that they're in. They go home, they're stressed. They go to work, they're stressed. And they constantly push it under the rug. And these people are like a ticking time bomb who are about to explode. So we can help them with their stress type. But the big one here coming to your situation, Scott, is we can have a look at people's chakras. There's 7 chakras in the human body. Each chakra has a front, a back, and a center. And when we look at the level of energy in the chakras, we can also detect trauma that has been passed down generationally. And people who have had a traumatic experience in the first 7 years of their life, including time in the mother's womb, have an imbalanced root chakra. An imbalanced root chakra helps us understand the root cause of their problem. Now, we have a physical body, but we also have an energetic body. And when we have these painful experiences at a young age, it also creates a trauma in our energetic body. And based on karma, that pain can travel through lifetimes with us. And so we can detect the energy levels in the chakras, how much energy they have that's trapped in the past, how much present focused energy, and also how much energy they have for the future. And that helps us understand how much potential people have in a particular area.
I almost want to do this. Because when you said 7, I was almost killed at 7 by a car. So that would be, and I've always noticed, I've thought, oh, my head injuries, this, that, and yes, there are head injuries. And then the mentalness, it's like, did it come from the head? There's always been that. And it's also talking to some other people, like from all the accidents I've had in my life, my organs aren't even really in the right spot where they're supposed to be. And it makes sense. And then somebody even said, your soul's probably not even in the right space, because when you, like,
The impact.
I got into a head-on collision on my Harley. I was doing 60, and I didn't go flying. I got shot backwards on the bike, like I never left the bike. And it's like, just stuff like that. It's like, it's crazy. And impacts like that, what does it really do to your psyche?
Well, if we hopped out of traditional Western psychology and we hopped into Eastern psychology, here in Taiwan, we have a healing process, and we call it Shoujing. Now, Shoujing is an 800-year-old tradition in Taiwan, and the Taiwanese say that we have 3 souls and the 7 spirits in our body. And whenever we have a traumatic event, our soul becomes fragmented. It splits, and there's like a piece of our soul that remains trapped in the past. And we become frightened. And so the process of Shoujing uses sound healing and incantations to stop the fright, but also to call the souls and the 7 spirits back to the body. See, there's 7 human emotions that we all experience. Some are stronger, some are weaker, but we become fragmented. And so if we get triggered with fear after a traumatic event, that fear turns into PTSD, and we keep replaying these events over and over and again in our mind. For example, a head-on car accident, it had on your motorbike, it happened once in reality, but it could have happened 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 times in your mind as it's played over and over and over again. So a one-time event now has happened 3,000 times.
However, that's the ironic part. I was standing up talking to my, because it happened at work or just outside of work. I'm standing there talking to my supervisor, and I wasn't even fazed by it. He's looking at me. It's in the film business, so he's seen huge stunts, and he's like looking at the car, looking at the bike, looking at me, and all of a sudden he goes, I've seen stunts go way worse than this. And it didn't, I go, yeah, like it's crazy.
Now, I know that you two are both fairly open to this. Scott, would you like to experience Shoujing for yourself? And I
would love
to offer this to you on the podcast today. And I'd like to frame it by saying that I am the only foreigner in Taiwan who has had this incantation passed down. So my master here in Taiwan has passed this on to me. And I'm the only foreigner on the island in Taiwan who can do this process. So if you're open to it, I'm happy to do it now.
Totally open.
Love that.
And we can start to do the soul healing.
Yes.
I'd love it.
Okay. Normally we go through it 3 times. We'll do it once. It'll take about 3 minutes.
Okay.
And all I'd ask, Scott, is that you close your eyes when we do this.
Okay.
And we're going to incorporate an 800-year-old incantation. I'm going to do this in traditional Taiwanese language. But when it comes to healing, you don't need to know the words. It's the intention.
Yeah.
It's the intention of the healer and also of the healee that you want to heal. I'll also incorporate a Tibetan sound bowl. And the sound bowl that I mentioned before has a frequency of 432 hertz. When we're exposed to this frequency of 432 hertz, it brings the autonomic nervous system back into balance. And as it comes back into balance, all of your organs over time begin to function at the correct time. Your gallbladder has a peak function between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. When our gallbladder doesn't function properly, we wake up in the morning with bodily pains. Our liver functions at at its peak between 1 a.m. and 3 p.m. in the morning. A lot of people wake up in the morning with a feeling of anxiety, and it's because the adrenals have just released cortisol into the body, and we become alert, and we're panicked, we're stressed. So the circadian rhythm of the body is out. As you mentioned before, the organs for you can be out of balance from a one-time event. The peak time for our lungs is between 3 and 5 a.m. in the morning. And between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. in the morning is when our lungs repair. Our large intestine is at its peak between 5 a.m. and 7 p.m. in the morning. We should all be defecating before 7 a.m. And if we're all defecating before 7 a.m., we know that our circadian rhythms are healthy and all of our organs are functioning as they should. Now, the reason why I say that, Scott, is the bottom chakra, the root chakra, it has a frequency of 396 hertz, and it's responsible for letting go. Defecation is letting go. And the way that we release emotions from the body is through defecation, urination, perspiration, and exhalation. And if we want to heal, we've got to make sure that our large intestine is working at its peak time, because all of those toxic emotions have to pass through the body. So when we do the Shojing today, we're going to call back the souls. We're going to bring back that fragmentation, and the sound frequency is going to start to give an instruction to your body to heal. Sound good?
Yep, sounds awesome.
Okay. Well,
Before you start this though, where my thought went was with you doing with this on video, and then it's out there in the public. If somebody closes their eyes and follows in direction with you, would it be the same thing or would it be different?
they will get to enjoy the benefits.
So really you could replay this 3 times and we would still get it 3 times.
We could. And when we do it today, as the healer, I want to evoke one of the gods, which is called Guansheng Dijun. And it's not my power that heals you. It's the universal source of energy. So everybody will benefit for this, but specifically we will evoke the deities to heal you.
Okay.
And Lisa, you're more than welcome to join along.
Thank you.
It's enjoyable. It'll be about 3 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
And the other question, just before we start, some people say that frequencies like this that we listen to, when they're transmuted, I don't know if that's the right word, sent over, technology like this, that it's not quite the same effect. Is there some truth to that?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, meaning that about 70 years ago, they decided that the appropriate tuning for musical instruments should be at 440 hertz. So when you listen to the radio today, when you listen to YouTube, when you listen to Spotify, the musical instruments are tuned to 440 hertz. Now, the problem with 440 hertz is that when we're exposed to 440 hertz, we feel anxious, angry, and stressed. Now, think about this. On Spotify, 970 million music songs are downloaded every month, and they're tuned to 440 hertz. So if people are listening to traditional radio, Hollywood movies, all those instruments are tuned to 440 hertz. It is not healthy for the body. This was researched 70 years ago. But for us today, using Zoom, the frequency bowl that I use is tuned to 432 hertz. And Zoom, what you hear, what I hear will be 432 hertz. This is the healthiest frequency for healing.
Okay, and when you just hit it, right? Because we didn't hear anything.
No,
You can't hear that.
no,
Not at all. You better
no.
crank up your sound a little bit. I'll
Oh, it
crank up.
is.
You got yours cranked up? Well,
Yep.
we will do both, and you will still get the benefit.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, ready to go?
Ready
Yeah.
to go.
官上帝准弟子 Daniel Yao Bang Scott Brearley 港星官上帝准 Bang Mang Shou Jing Rang Scott Brearley U Jing Shou Jing Gei Shu Jing Fang Qing Shu To Shu Wei Zhang Zhen Lai Xiao Jing Shou Gei Scott Brearley U Jing Gei Shu Jing Fang Qing Shu To Yu Wei Zhang Zhen Lai Xiao Jing Shou Gei Scott Brearley U Jing Gei Niu Jing Fang Qing Niu To Niu Wei Zhang Zhen Lai Xiao Jing Shou Gei Scott Brearley U Jing Gei Hu Jing Fang Qing Hu To Hu Wei Zhang Zhen Lai Xiao Jing Shou Gei Scott Brearley U Jing Gei Tu Jing Fang Qing Tu To Tu Wei Zhang Zhen Lai Xiao Jing Shou Gei Scott Brearley U Jing Gei Xie Jing Fang Qing Xie To Xie Wei Zhang Zhen Lai Xiao Jing Shou Gei Scott Brearley U Jing Gei Ma Jing Fang Qing Ma To Ma Wei Zhang Zhen Lai Xiao Jing Shou Gei Scott Brearley U Jing Gei Yang Jing Fang Qing Yang To Yang Wei Zhang Zhen Lai Xiao Jing Shou Gei Scott Brearley U Jing Gei Ho Jing Fang Qing Ho To Ho Wei Zhang Zhen Lai Xiao Jing Shou Gei Scott Brearley U Jing Gei Ji Jing Fang Qing Ji To Ji Wei Zhang Zhen Lai Xiao Jing Shou Gei Scott Brearley U Jing Gei Go Jing Fang Qing Go To Go Wei Zhang Zhen Lai Xiao Jing Shou Gei Scott Brearley U Jing Gei Ju Jing Fang Qing Ju To Ju Wei Zhang Zhen Lai Xiao Jing Shou Gei Scott Brearley U Jing 热是金川万事好水心金火鸡入路令 And when you're ready, welcome back.
That was the most bizarre experience of my life. Like at first I wanted to get emotional, and then it kind of went away. And then I found every time I was breathing, I would be exhaling to the point where you gonged on it again, or I'm not sure if that's the appropriate word. But then I would exhale and it would be like it followed your rhythm, but I felt it like go through my body and my lungs, and however I did feel resistance. And the less I resisted, the further it went down. Every time it was just, it's like, and my lungs feel lighter and my intestines feel a smidge lighter, but that's where I think that's where like I'm blocked, obviously. That's what that tells me.
What was that first emotion that came up for you?
I don't really know. It was just like, I think it was almost like healing or knowing I'm in the right space, or it's like, this is, I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you. I have a hard time attaching feelings and stuff to stuff.
Excellent.
And I
Did you
think
hear
it
that
just,
emotion when you first spoke? Could you hear it there, Lisa?
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah, over the recording, you probably won't be able to see his watery eyes, but that's what I was looking at.
Excellent.
I
Excellent. So
love all this new stuff that, and it's not even new. It's like EMDR, rapid eye movement therapy. Apparently they used it in the wars because guys would go like this in front of people that were in shock to get them, and they didn't even know they were doing anything. So who knows when that started?
for example, with Shoujing, it's an 800-year-old tradition
Yeah.
here in Taiwan, and albeit the way that I deliver it is with a combination of the Tibetan singing bowl, people will go down to the temple every day. So if they have a shock or if they have a fright, they will go down on a daily basis and receive the blessings from one of the monks. We have a lot of earthquakes here in Taiwan, and it's traumatic. We have big earthquakes, and you feel frightened. And we will go and have Shoujing with the master. And what it's designed to do, it wants to do two things. The Shoujing wants to give you a restorative sleep by night. And it wants to give you full vitality during the day. And then it calls back the souls. And when we do the incantation, we're also inviting the 12 zodiac gods. So are you familiar with the 12 zodiacs in Chinese? So we have the rat, the snake, the monkey. We're also evoking those energies to come and heal the body, inviting them into the body to heal.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, so you mentioned the whole sound bowl, being in that space of healing, and that's something we also do connect in regards to being in Thailand, that feeling of healing, just the healing space and just the way that people, the environment sort of allows for that. It's very amazing. But I'm thinking of people who, might not be in that space. What, like, are we like recommending everyone go out and get a sound bowl? Like, what are the things that can help you to heal?
I think the first thing is an open mind.
Yeah.
An open mind is the most important thing to heal. I think the second thing is the willingness to let go. Because somebody has hurt us, somebody's done wrong by us, and we feel that by holding onto that memory, it's going to protect us. It's not the memory that protects us. It's not the emotion that protects us. It's the learning that protects us. And as we get the learnings, we also release the emotions. The emotions, especially the negative emotions, are toxic inside of our body.
Oh, yeah.
The emotions of guilt and shame, they resonate at around about 20 to 30 hertz as a frequency. The frequency of death is 0 hertz. And I think if anybody's been holding on to guilt and shame for many years, you almost feel like a walking dead. There's nothing below that except death. We have to get our frequency at least to the midpoint, according to the book, The Spectrum of Human Consciousness by Dr. David Hawkins, is we have to get ourselves to the level of 200, which is willingness. We have to have a willingness to let go of the past. And then any other positive emotion that resonates above 200 hertz, it starts to dissolve and dilute anything under that. So they say the power of love. Through healing, the first experience of love that you have is for yourself. And when you love yourself, you forgive yourself. And if you can forgive yourself, it's then easy to forgive the people who have hurt you. So I think, number one, an open mind. Number two, a willingness to let it go.
Very powerful. And so you had done my voice. Did you have some feedback for me as well?
I do.
I haven't heard any of this yet, so
I know, I feel like I kind of stole the show.
no, not at all.
Hey, it's your show. You're allowed to steal it.
Yes, yes.
Now, you completed what we call the alignment assessment. So the alignment assessment is a 90-second vocal health screening. There's no questions. All you did was read a script that we provided. It doesn't matter if you read our script or if you read a paper, an article out of a newspaper. It wouldn't have mattered if you counted from 1 to 100 or 100 to 1. What's important is in that 90-second voice analysis, we're detecting around about 1,440 emotional triggers. And then what we have is we have an algorithm. And this algorithm looks at 4 areas of holistic health: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And what is very important for a lot of people to know is that only 1% of studies globally focus on our spiritual health. 1%. We are spiritual beings first and foremost.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a look at these 4 areas. Each of these areas have what is called a bi-directional response, meaning that when our physical health is compromised, it's harder to manage our emotions. If our spiritual health is compromised, our mental health also becomes compromised. But if we make a small improvement in any one of these areas, all the other areas also improve. And I think for most of us, we could agree that if you just have one really good night's sleep, the next day, it's so much easier to manage your emotions.
Yeah.
When it comes to spiritual health, when you stop procrastinating on your life and you start to take action, all of a sudden the body comes alive. You get this burst of energy. You get all these free drugs running through the body. You get serotonin, you get oxytocin, and you feel great. So our goal here is not to diagnose. We don't do that. It's just to detect the balance in your body. And it's what you do with this information next that's most important. So when we go through, you'll see things in here that you'll say, this makes sense. And the other things you'll say, oh, yes, now I get it. So when it comes to your physical health, and I'll give you a copy of this PDF later on, your sleep quality, your immune system, and chronic fatigue levels are all in the neutral zone. Nothing to worry about. When it comes to emotional health, this is about recognizing and managing emotions. The way that you process emotions is you're more left brain dominant. So what this means is that when you feel an emotion, you'll be like a detective. What is this emotion? Where's this emotion coming from? Why am I feeling that emotion right now? So you're very logical left brain dominant. Have you noticed that when you feel an emotion, you become a detective of that feeling?
Oh, yes, a detective in many areas, not just that.
She doesn't stop. She's plugged into stuff all the time.
Very
Books,
logical.
podcasts.
Very logical. Now, when we look at frequent emotions and core emotions, the frequent emotion is your first emotional response at this present time. We then have the core emotion. Now, the core emotion might have only been detected once in the vocal health screening, but it's the strongest. And the core emotion we can detect all the way back to the final trimester in the womb. So these are the ones that some people, if they have a very high level of awareness, they go, I absolutely get that. Or other times they go, yes, now that makes sense. So your frequent emotion, based on this analysis, which you completed on the 14th of May, your frequent emotion is feeling anxious and shy in certain situations.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
So how does that show up for you?
Oh, it's been like that all my life. The obvious sort of, how to explain that? That I'm worth being heard. Hence, and so this whole new place I'm in of publishing books, doing podcasts, it's very much a switch in my life, because it's in the public zone. I was a teacher and found that I could do that no problem with children, but asked me to speak in front of adults. No way, no way. So this is all new, and yes, my nervous system, even right now, like experiencing all this is like my nervous system is like almost on tingles all the time or quite often. So figuring out, well, what does that mean? The curiosity questions all the time.
Excellent, excellent. These emotions, they can change like the weather. And what's important for us, and it's coming back to Scott's question before, once we detect it, what do we do about it? With emotions we will feel for about 4 to 30 seconds. That's it. What we experience after that is a mood. So we say when it comes to self-regulation, if you can't name it, you can't tame it. So this accelerates the process, and it says, this is the frequent emotion. Your job now is to be more aware of that and to be able to name it when it comes up. Because emotions we feel in the right brain. And then we make sense of it in our left brain. And if the right brain and the left brain aren't on the same page, then what you'll tend to do is to overthink the anxiousness and the shyness. You'll try to find the root cause of it by digging down deep into it. What I'd recommend for you is just to be able to name it and move on. Okay. So the right brain feels anxiousness and shyness in certain situations. The left brain just has to articulate and say, right now I'm feeling the emotion of anxiousness and shy. Okay. And then the brain balances, coming back to your autonomic nervous system. Instead of getting stuck in the fight or flight response, it comes back into a balanced state. Okay, I know what this emotion is. Now we can manage it.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Now, your core emotion, this is the strongest. It's probably only been detected once. And at times for you, you'll feel pessimistic and insecure.
I'm not sure about the pessimistic.
Yeah, I don't think pessimistic.
Insecure, maybe. Insecure. I feel there are only little sprinklings of that now, where it's like now. But again, like I said, it's this new shift in my life. It's like, is this what I'm meant to be doing? I was about to say the word should, but is this what I'm meant to be doing? Like, what is this all about? And so again, like you said, what side of my brain? My left side wants to say, what, why, what's going on?
So these emotions, they're neither good or bad, right or wrong. And we detect about a combination of about 55 different emotions. And some of these emotions can either help us or they can hurt us. And the goal is to figure out, does it help or does it hurt? Because emotions are just information. And then once we start to work with how we're naturally wired, we get a lot better performance. For being anxious and shy, I've had this as my frequent emotion before. And how it shows up for me is at a live event, I will be the person sitting at the back of the room. I won't necessarily go and talk to people. I'll wait for people to come and talk to me. So what I do is I say, I know this about myself. I will take the first step. And so I start to let it work for me rather than against me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It does. Is this kind of like, for me, it's like that comfort zone sort of thing, feeling like what you're talking about. I would have typically been the one that would sat in the back. However, I'm encouraging myself to sit at the front to test out new things. Like,
Exactly.
and be okay in that space and say, I'm doing this now. I'm doing this now.
There's another piece of technology I use, and I look at critical thinking. And in critical thinking, we're looking at our levels of emotional intelligence. We're looking at our ability to think tactically and strategically. And when it comes to emotional intelligence and dealing with people, I'm more skeptical. Now, on the outside, you'd think if Daniel's more skeptical and he works with people, it seems to be a mismatch. Because a coach or a healer per se should be more compassionate. That'd be fair to say, wouldn't it? A healer should be very compassionate. In my role in corporate coaching, I've profiled 10,000 people. And a part of that profiling is I'm also making recommendations to companies on who to hire based on their traits. So imagine if I was compassionate and fell in love with every single person. I love you, I want you to have the job. But that skeptical part of my nature works to my advantage because I say, trust in science. And I remove myself from the equation and I let the science do the talking. Because there's also people where my personal bias might slip in and I say something that the person said or a particular thing that's happened in an interview, I could get turned off really quickly. But that would be my bias. So again, I let the science do the talking. And I say, okay, that's my bias, but this is what I'm going to deal with.
Makes sense.
So they're your emotions, your mental health. You've got great mental health here. When it comes to anxiety, mood, stress and burnout, all of these areas are neutral. And in your spiritual health, courage and procrastination levels are also neutral. So overall, your holistic health is balanced.
Yay.
Your learning is just to remember that your dominant hemisphere of your brain is left brain dominance. Now, we have an ultradian rhythm. Have you heard of that before?
No.
The ultradian rhythm means that we will tend to have a left or right brain dominance, and that shifts every 90 minutes. But for you, you'll be more left brain dominant. Okay. So just remember that when it comes to doing whatever you're doing, more left brain dominant.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, this is great information. It's extremely fascinating. Extremely fascinating. So yeah, we could probably sit and talk for hours with you, Daniel. So where can people start to reach out to you so they can get this voice scan and find out more information about themselves so they can move forward maybe?
Go to my website, which is danieltolson.com, and there'll be a button on the front of the web page that says, what does voice reveal about your leadership style? Click that button. It's free to do it, and I will speak to you personally.
Wow.
Awesome.
Service.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I love learning and growing and changing.
Well, we say if you change your frequency, you change your life. And I think we're in an age today where we realize that everything has a frequency. Over my right shoulder here, I have a Schumann resonance generator. And this is set to a frequency of 7.36 hertz, which is the natural heartbeat of the earth. And by having that in my office, it keeps me very grounded.
Love that.
So we should be mindful of our frequencies. We get exposed to more than 10,000 frequencies per second. And you can't ignore a frequency. A frequency activates brainwave entrainment. It's like a sound. If you're hearing a song in the distance, you can't say to yourself, stop listening, stop listening, stop listening. That sound still comes through the ear. That sound becomes chemical. That chemical then becomes electric in the brain. It changes the brain waves. We have 7 different brain waves. Those brain waves function at different speeds. That message gets sent down through the 8th and 10th cranial nerve, which is the vagus nerve, and impacts every organ and system in the body. So we say if you change your frequency, you change your life.
And before we let you go, I'm just curious on this question, and I don't know if Scott's thought about this, but there are some sounds that he just wants to go. Like, no, I cannot listen to that pitch or that whatever it is. Do you have sort of information on that?
Low sounds impact the lower regions of your body, and high-pitched sounds impact the higher areas of your body. And once sound starts to get beyond 85 and 95 decibels, it creates physical pain in the body. So think about a motorbike, Scott, where somebody's disc brakes have worn out, and now you've got metal on metal, and it starts to squeal. That creates physical pain in the body. And if we stay exposed to loud sounds, high-pitched sounds for too long, our body will shift from a parasympathetic dominance, which is healing, to a sympathetic dominance, which is stress, fight or flight. So we have to be very mindful of the sounds that we're exposed to all the time. They impact the different systems in the bodies.
That's wild because I was a stonemason, and in the last we didn't, in the beginning it was just the chisel, but at the end we were using grinders and diamond blades, and I grew up in the area that safety, that's for, I won't use the word, but it's actually for smart people. I'll say it that way. But yeah, and so that kind of explains it, because I was stuck in fight or flight mode for years, but I also lived in the back stuff, the stories that I told myself, and I continued to tell myself that 30 years later, are they even really true? I know that some of them are true, or not true, but they're close, but over you change stuff, so.
Do you have children at all?
No, I have one that not in my life, but yes.
Okay. Well, what's interesting is, from a spirituality perspective, when the child is growing in utero and in the first 7 months of the child's life, there's a soft spot on the baby's head. Remember those soft spots there? Mm-hmm. And it's called the fontanelle. And before the skull closes up, we say that there's an ethereal connection between the child and the divine. It's like an ethereal umbilical cord connecting the child to the God source energy. And at around about 7 to 9 months, the skull forms and the fontanelle closes and the soft spot disappears. And people in spirituality will say that at that stage, they become disconnected from the divine. And then it's not until later on in life, until there's been a significant emotional event, a near-death experience, or they want to end their life, or they come to the end of their physical life, that they start to reconnect with the divine. And so there's also a physiological function there that as the skull forms, we lose our connection with the divine. But to be able to reconnect with the divine, we also have to balance out our crown chakra. And Scott, the crown chakra resonates at 963 hertz, and those high-pitched sounds creates disintegration in that chakra. And so a lot of the times people who have been experienced to high-pitched sounds often feel that they're not connected to the God source. Oh. And it's impacted by sound.
Like I think of Scott, and he doesn't know the extent of what sort of surgery was done on your head at the age of 7. So like when you even think of that concept, it's almost like reopening something that in the brain.
That's how the chakras open up.
Well,
the chakras absorb energy. So, for example, using a sound bowl, if we are going left with the sound bowl and we're working with the chakras, what we're doing is we're letting out all the negative energy in the chakra. And then when we're moving the sound bowl right, we're shifting the way that the chakra operates, and it's bringing in the healing energy. And chakras communicate vertically. So the root chakra communicates with the sacral. The sacral communicates with the solar plexus. The solar plexus communicates with the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown. But then they also communicate downwards. They also communicate left and right, meaning that they're disposing of waste and bringing in healing energy. But they're also going forwards and backwards in time as well. So our chakras, like that here, they're multi-dimensional, and they can release pain from the past, but also open up so we have more potential. And what we find is that through sound healing, people who develop their third eye chakra and their crown chakra, they will tend to release more melatonin. They will sleep better. That melatonin will synthesize in the gut and become serotonin. They'll have a better mood, but their spirituality also becomes enhanced. They start to feel reconnected with the divine. They start to feel that they have meaning and purpose in their life. But when the crown chakra is overactive or underactive, not enough energy in there, people don't feel that they have true meaning and that their life is worthless. Coming back to one other thing which you might find interesting, Scott, is addiction. A lot of us think about addiction as being chemical. It could be a substance. But based on all of my research and my case studies, every single person who has an addiction has an imbalance in the third eye chakra and the throat chakra. And if you think about an addiction, it has to do with putting things in here. Any type of substance. So when these two chakras are out of balance, addiction shows up in people's lives. And that addiction is in the aura. The aura influences the endocrine system. The endocrine system influences the hormones. The hormones influence all the organs, our behaviors, our emotions. So sometimes we're looking for the answer in this lifetime, but sometimes it's in our energy body for addiction.
Oh, absolutely. I don't believe, like there's some teachings that I somewhat believe from, because I've been in 12-step programs since I was 15. And so to unlearn all that stuff was almost going against if you don't go to meetings, you're going to get loaded. If you're going to do this, and it's like, don't get me wrong, I believe there's a purpose for the 12-step programs. However, I believe there's a greater purpose for people that get there. Because it's like the Bible. From what I heard, I've never read it, but it's apparently a great read. And people that I know that have read it that aren't religious say there's a lot of good material in there to apply to life. And it's the same with almost everything that I've done in my life. There's a lot of good material to apply to my life.
We all have a signature sound. Your signature sound, Lisa, we captured when you do your voice analysis. When we do Scott's, we'll be able to capture his signature sound. And once we get that signature sound, we can see which frequencies are missing from the body. And when we reintroduce those frequencies through musical medicine into the body, these problems start to clear up. I created a musical medicine protocol. It's a 15-minute protocol. We listen to it in the morning and at night for 15 minutes. And it was designed because I had been working with men who were in Alcoholics Anonymous. And although they were going through the 12 steps, they still had addiction in their DNA. And the purpose of the musical medicine was to balance out the chakras that cause the addictive behaviors. And I had gentlemen who were snorting a bag of cocaine a day stop snorting bags of cocaine after 4 days. People who were always wanting to go back and have a drink, and they would just stop thinking about a drink. And I called that the mind, body, soul protocol. And each of our musical medicine frequencies starts by capturing your signature sound, and then our technology creates a customized sound frequency therapy for you to deal with things like addiction.
Yeah. So I have another question about the sound therapy. Right now I got a head cold. Mm-hmm. Does that play effect in it, or like should I wait till the head cold's gone, or
do it now? do it now. The head cold will be one part of a big picture, and we're looking for 14,000 different areas.
Okay.
And sometimes the head cold, I'll give you an example. We have our technology in Harley Street clinics in the United Kingdom. And I was reading the chakras of a doctor. And I looked at her chakras, her throat chakra, her heart chakra, and her root chakra were all imbalanced. And I said to the doctor, I said, this technology is also probabilistic, meaning that it's detective. And based on what I can see here, you're probably going to have a cold and flu in the next 2 to 3 weeks. She said, Daniel, I'm a doctor. I know how to take care of myself. I'm taking all the right supplements. And I said, yes, I'm sure you are, like we all are. I said, but it's showing up in your energy centers. There's imbalances. She messaged me 3 days later and she said, I don't think this technology is accurate. I said, what do you think? She says, it's absolutely 100% accurate. She said, I've been sick as a dog for 3 days. She says it's both probabilistic and deterministic.
There you go.
And things like cold and flu will show up in these reports anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks in advance. Most of the times when we have problems with cold and flu, it's nothing to do with today. It's with the things that were happening 3 or 4 weeks ago into the past.
Yeah.
It makes sense for him. Yeah, he's been busy traveling and working and the stress and everything that came with it.
Final pause. If you've got a message on your heart and want to be our guest, don't be shy. We'd love to hear from you. Visit forwardwalkingchoices.com, scroll to the Soulmates and Suitcases podcast section, and click apply here. Now back to the show.
I got in at 1:30 in the morning last night after a 30-hour flight. Well, 30-hour travel, I should say.
But the last 3-4 weeks have been crazy work hours, stress of monies, and where am I sleeping, and what's going on, and
Hey, here's something interesting, Scott, for you. If there was traumas for you in the first 7 years of your life, and as Lisa has just said here, with money worries, when we have an imbalanced root chakra, specifically that relates to money. And we can be seeming to do all the right things, but we can never get the money that we desire. And it often has its root cause in an imbalanced root chakra. That's when the energy is too low. If the energy is too high, have you ever met a hoarder before? Someone who just, when the energy in the root chakra is too high, it causes them to hoard. And it could be like they might just buy 100 cans of baked beans. They might bring home all the cardboard boxes. They might work and live like a miser and spend no money and think they're always going to be broke, and they just hoard money. So when there's financial problems, we can also tie it back to the root chakra. And each of these chakras are developed at a different period in our life. The root chakra, it's developed in the first 7 years of our life. It relates to our father. Our sacral plexus chakra starts to develop from age 7 to 14 and relates to our mother figures. And when we have imbalances in these two things, oftentimes we're carrying pain as well from interactions with our fathers and our mothers. So I'll send yours over, Lisa, and you'll see yours in PDF. And then when we do yours, Scott, I'll show you the PDF and you'll be able to see it in its entirety. For me, for an example, I was suffering with a sty in my eye, and I had been to the doctor 36 times. And I said to my team of doctors, I said, I need you to design a frequency that's going to heal up this sty. They changed my frequency, the bacteria or the virus disappeared, and I've never been back to the doctor since. 36 times I had been there. I had suffered Epstein-Barr virus and chronic fatigue since age 15. And I believe that was because of the stress that I went through during remedial therapy from age 10 to age 15. I just ended up really sick. And during the pandemic, after I had the vaccine, I definitely had a vaccine injury, and it triggered the Epstein-Barr and the chronic fatigue. And I was sleeping 10 to 12 hours a day and I was still tired. I had my team of doctors create a new frequency that would boost my immune system. I started to sleep 8 to 9 hours. I would wake up full of energy. I wouldn't have a mid-afternoon crash. And at night, I'd just drop into a deep sleep. So with these frequency therapies, the first thing that we want to do with our clients is to get the body sleeping again, because it's during sleep that the body heals.
Yeah.
Emotions are regulated in our sleep. Our hormones are balanced in our sleep. And Scott, once we start to dream again, all of that PTSD and the trauma from the past starts to release through the body and it passes out.
So
I
good,
love this,
Daniel.
Daniel. Thank you very much. And
My pleasure.
despite people telling you that you had a learning disability, I think you're a genius.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, appreciate your time very much. And for those people who are listening and watching today, their jaws are probably down here somewhere with all this information and just a lot to absorb. But please make sure, leave a comment, even ask Daniel a question under this episode, and share the episode because it's very fascinating, Daniel. And
Like and subscribe.
yes, everything. So thank you again, and we'll say thank you from Thailand. I'll say Kapun Ka.
Kapun Krap.
Oh, maybe you can teach us in Taiwanese.
Xie, which
Xie
means
xie.
thank you, and Zai Jen means bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Looking for more inspiration around healing, love, growth, and possibility? You can explore our books at payhip.com/Lisa Scott Brearley Authors. And if today's episode meant something to you, we'd love for you to follow the podcast, share it with someone you care about, or join our Soulmates and Suitcases community online. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.